You've probably heard that Prohibition made alcohol illegal in the 1920s. What you might not know is that the US government responded by poisoning the alcohol supply on purpose, and thousands of people died. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's real history. Let's go back. In 1920, the 18th Amendment went into effect. Alcohol was now illegal in the United States. The goal was simple: make America healthier, more moral, less violent. But there was a problem. People didn't stop drinking. Almost overnight, a massive black market exploded. Bootleggers, speakeasies, homemade stills, corrupt cops. If you had money and connections, you could still get drunk whenever you wanted. And a lot of people did. One key source of underground booze was something called industrial alcohol. This was alcohol used in things like fuel, paint, cleaning products, and factory solvents. It wasn't taxed. It wasn't drinkable, but it was still alcohol. Bootleggers figured out how to re-nature it, clean it up chemically, and turn it back into something people could drink. And they made a killing. By 1926, the government had had enough. So they came up with a plan. If bootleggers keep stealing industrial alcohol, we'll make it so toxic that drinking it could kill you. That's right, they deliberately poisoned it. The US Treasury Department, which oversaw Prohibition enforcement, started requiring manufacturers to add methyl alcohol, aka methanol, to industrial alcohol supplies. Methanol is highly toxic. Just a few ounces can cause blindness, organ failure, or death. And the plan worked in the worst possible way. People kept drinking, but now they were dying. The New York City medical examiner at the time, Dr. Charles Norris, was one of the first to sound the alarm. He publicly stated, "The government knows it is not stopping drinking by putting poison in alcohol. It is only punishing those who cannot afford expensive protection." In other words, rich people were still getting clean, bootleg whiskey, but the poor, the working class, were dying from poisoned hooch. By some estimates, over 10,000 people were killed by poisoned alcohol during Prohibition. That number doesn't include the people who went blind, lost limbs, or suffered permanent brain damage. And these weren't accidents. The government didn't just know this was happening. They continued to escalate the poisoning over the years, adding things like kerosene, formaldehyde, acetone, even gasoline. The thinking was, if drinking has consequences, maybe people will stop. But that didn't happen. The speakeasies stayed full. The bootleggers kept bootlegging, and the death toll climbed. Newspapers at the time were divided. Some supported the crackdown, saying people were bringing it on themselves. Others called it state-sponsored murder. Dr. Norris, the medical examiner, put it bluntly, "It is only the poor and the ignorant who suffer. The government is lying when it says this will stop drinking." Eventually, even Congress started to question what was happening, but the Treasury Department refused to back down. They claimed the poison program was a deterrent, that people had been warned. But in reality, there were no major public safety campaigns, no warning labels, no effort to distinguish toxic batches from safe ones. People drank what they could get and hoped it wouldn't kill them. Meanwhile, organized crime flourished. Figures like Al Capone were making millions selling illegal liquor, and they weren't the ones getting poisoned. It was factory workers, immigrants, poor families, people who couldn't afford imported scotch or protected sources. So, how did this all end? It didn't stop because the poisoning program was shut down. It stopped because Prohibition ended. In 1933, the 21st Amendment repealed the ban on alcohol. The public had grown tired of the chaos, the crime, and the hypocrisy, and almost immediately, the poisoning stopped. But here's what's wild. There's never really been a full public apology. Most Americans have never heard about this at all. It's not in the school textbooks. It's not in the mainstream history narrative. And yet, it happened. The US government knowingly poisoned the public to enforce a moral agenda. And when people started dying, they didn't stop. They doubled down. If that sounds dystopian, it was. And it raises serious questions even today. How far should a government go to enforce its laws? What happens when public safety becomes collateral damage? And who pays the price when policy turns lethal? Prohibition was meant to save lives. Instead, it helped create organized crime, corruption, and one of the deadliest government public health disasters in American history. We often think of history as a series of clear moral lessons, right and wrong, heroes and villains. But the Prohibition poisoning program is a reminder. Sometimes the biggest threats come from the institutions meant to protect us. So the next time someone tells you they would never do that, remember, they already did.